Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Blue Brain. Today I am going to talk about Azure Fabric Controller. Suppose if I am describing my service architecture to my friend, I will probably open a whiteboard and draw some boxes, diagram, etc. to explain to my friend. In the real world, we spend a lot of time implementing this diagram. I'll set up some machines and install ways and stuffs. I deploy various pieces of softwares to the right machines. I set up various network settings like firewalls, VLANs, load balancers, and so on. I will also set up monitoring. Azure Fabric Controllers automates all of this for us. It's a highly available distributed software running across all Azure nodes and monitor the state of the node. If I say that Microsoft Azure is the OS of the data center, then Azure Fabric Controller is the kernel of that OS. Azure Fabric Controller makes resource allocation, validate the health of the application which are running, manages the hardware infrastructure of the data center. So it communicates with every server within the fabric. I will talk about more on fabric in the future videos. It also decides where the new application should run. Azure Fabric Controller is up and running all the time on a dedicated resource, and it manages the OS in each instance of web and worker roles of an application, and it also helps applying the OS patches. Now let's learn what is Azure Fabric Controller used for. Resource allocation. Azure Fabric Controller allocates compute power, memory, storage resources to all the VMs on each physical machine. Monitoring and reviewing. Azure Fabric Controller reviews and monitors the utilization, availability, and capacity of Fabric. Fabric means it can be group of servers or clusters or high speed connection or switches. In cloud computing, we just call it Fabric. Resource optimization. Azure Fabric Controller optimizes the distribution of resources for best application performance. Automation. Azure Fabric Controller automates load balancing, resource scaling, and it will ensure high speed connections. Now take a look at what are the key tasks of Azure Fabric Controller. First is hardware management. Hardware management means managing low level hardware in the data center. It will provision, it will monitor, and it will take corrective actions when things are not going fine. If Azure Fabric Controller is detecting a problem, it will perform corrective actions. If that is not possible, then it will take the hardware from the pool, and then probably a field engineer or data center engineer will investigate what is the problem. Second is service modeling. Azure Fabric Controller follows the topology of the service. For example, suppose if I specify that three front-end nodes talking to a back-end node through a specific port, then Fabric Controller will ensure the topology always holds up. In case of a failure, it will deploy the right binaries in a new node and brings the service model to its correct state. Third one is operating system management, OS management. Azure Fabric Controller takes care of patching of the OS which is running on the node, and that too without taking down the service. The fourth one is service life cycle. Azure Fabric Controller automates many things such as updates and configuration changes. We can partition our application into sections like update domain and fault domain. And Azure Fabric Controller updates only one domain at a time so that service is always up. Suppose if you are pushing new configuration changes, then it will bring down one section of our machines and update it, and it will move on to the next set, and so on, so that service is always up and running. Azure Fabric Controller is very important topic, and to understand Azure internals, we should understand what is Azure Fabric Controller. I hope you have understood what is Azure Fabric Controller. This is completely theoretical subject, and I will publish more and more practical and real-time scenario-based videos in near future. If you like this video, please do like, share and subscribe to this channel.